Welcome to the No Limits Podcast, where limits do not exist, where you can create cash flow, equity, and real freedom with the power of real estate.
3, 4. Now, we will begin.
Welcome to the dojo. Dojo.
Resistance is your worst enemy or your best friend. That's what we're going to talk about on today's episode of the No Limits Real Estate Investing Podcast. This is Todd Toback, and if you don't know me, I've done over 1,200 real estate deals, and 95% of those were locked up by somebody on my team and not by me personally. And my goal for this show is to teach you how to do more deals, how to make more money, how to increase your freedom. And so before we get into today's show, if you have not been to our website, go to nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, and I have a guide there for you. It's called the MAP, the Massive Action Plan. And so whether you haven't done your first deal, or if you're looking to start to scale up, you've got to download this Massive Action Plan. It's going to be a step-by-step program on what to do. It's a phenomenal document. Go there, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, and download it, and I'll give you a quick action plan to get started today. Also, if you have not shared the show, if you've been listening and consuming the content, please copy and paste the link to the show and share it with 3 or more people, and review us wherever you listen to this content. All right, so let's get into the show. Let's talk about resistance and why it could be your worst enemy or your best friend. You know, there's a title of a book. It's called The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, and I actually have not read the book, but I love the title because I always say that to myself. The obstacle is the way, right? The obstacle is the way. And I remember when I was in my early 20s and I was training with an all-American cross-country runner, right? And we were both into triathlons at the time. And this guy was an athlete among athletes, right? He was much stronger on the run than me. And he used to say, man, I love adversity, right? I love it when the hills are hilly. I love it when the wind is up. I love it when it's raining. He's like, I love it when it's hailing. He's like, because I know my competition is going to be smothered by the resistance, right? They're going to be crushed. You go, this is a huge advantage to me. Because when I'm outside practicing, I love the resistance, right? When I'm out there thinking about racing in my mind, I love to think about the resistance. And he goes, and when I'm racing, he's like, I just love really, really tough conditions because I know I have the advantage. Okay, so you may start to get to the gist of where I'm getting to on today's show. And I absolutely love it in this business because if you can learn to use resistance to your advantage, you're going to blow the doors off this business and your life. That I promise you, okay? Let me give you an example of where we recently encountered resistance and turned it into our best friend instead of our enemy. So this just happened this week where we locked up a quadplex in South Florida. We had it under contract, and for whatever reason, we were not able to sell it. Our last episode, we talked about actually how to price a property, right? And we used the methods that we thought were the right methods to lock up this property, but we were wrong, and that's okay. So we had to go back to the seller and renegotiate a price that made sense. Problem is, our acquisition specialist came back to us and said, seller said no, deal is dead. Oh, the deal is dead. Okay, except I know better. And if you're listening to this podcast, and if you're a student of mine, I want you to know better because the deal is never dead. I look at all deals as a zombie, right? They've got the potential to come back alive. And so what our acquisition specialist, Brian, was dealing with was what we call resistance, right? The seller said no. It's an area, right, where we got stopped in our tracks, right? In a run, maybe it's a hill, right? In business, maybe it's a no. Or maybe if you're at a title company, I'm going to talk about where it's something is stopping your deal. Maybe it's a vendor you're not working with, right? Maybe you're tired and you don't want to make calls today, or you don't want to hire someone today, or you don't want to manage someone today, or you don't want to know your books today. This is resistance. And so most people are going to quit. And so today, Brian wanted to quit. Now, the great thing about being part of a team and when you're around really, really great people is that we all have good days and bad days. So you want to be part of a community where people can call you out on your BS, right? On your bull spit. We'll keep the show rated G today. And so we called Brian out in his bull spit and we said, no. The seller said, I think we were trying to we had the house under contract for 230. I think we had an offer for 230. And so we needed to be at 210 to make this deal work at our minimum profit, right? And he said, the seller's not willing to come down. So I said, go back, okay, and tell the seller again that we could get the deal done, okay? And I said, instead of saying, though, will you go down to 210? Okay. I said, how can we do a deal today? How can we do a deal today? Because I think Brian was asking actually for a reduction of 200,000. And he says, okay, I'll try that. And I said, and wait a couple of days, right? Let the seller cool off a little bit. And he's, disappointed that we didn't get the deal done at 230, was expecting to close here in 30 days. But, let's let him come to that reality. So we went past the resistance. Brian went back and just changed his words on this and said, Mr. Seller, how can we do a deal today? How can we get this deal done? And he said, well, 200 is not going to work, but 210 will. Okay. Well, long story short, now we got a 20K spread, right? There was some initial resistance where we initially heard no. And I can tell you that 99% of investors, of wholesalers, of business owners, they quit right there. If you are in this business for any length of time and you are doing any amount of deals, you're going to hear no all the time to your offer or to the price or the closing date or whatever that is. And so you're going to have to learn how to navigate this, right? And move past resistance. And if you can do that, you're going to thrive in this business, right? So this deal that we thought was dead, the seller said no because we refused to say no. And we went back, we went past the first sign of resistance. We turn a dead deal, okay, into a 15K profit, right? We got some closing costs in there, so it's not exactly 20 grand. That's very, very, very important. Okay, let me give you an example of another example where we had resistance. So our team was recently working on a condo that we had wholesaled, and we were dealing with an HOA, right? That's a homeowners association. And whenever you're doing a deal with a homeowners association, there has to be some kind of approval. Not every time, but a lot of time there's approval where a board has to approve it and there's some paperwork. And we were supposed to close this deal in a week. And long story short, they said, well, this is going to be 30 days. Now, I don't know about you, but I want you to get paid today. Whenever I hear something's going to take 30 days, I want you to hear wah, 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 because I am not going to tolerate that, right? Especially on single family houses, right? If you're doing commercial deals or something else, that's a different ball game, right? But right now I'm talking about little deals that can be closed immediately, right? It is very important that you decrease your cash conversion cycle. What is the cash conversion cycle? Cash conversion cycle is when you put $1 into your business, how soon can you get 5 to 10 out, right? You want this thing to be an ATM machine. You feed it $1, you get 5 to 10 out. And you want to do that as fast as humanly possible. The longer it takes for you to get your money back, the more stressful the business is, right? This is for any business. So you got to find a way to decrease this. So we're in this dilemma and we've got all of a sudden this 30 days to close because that's when the HOA meets. And we've got the title and escrow company accepting this. And we have our disposition department accepting this, right? So we are on our weekly meeting, which I recommend for everybody, by the way. I have all of my private clients do a weekly meeting with their team. And this is very, very important. It's all hands on deck. And we talk about the deals in the pipeline and issues. And so because of this, we were able to hear this problem, this challenge, and overcome it. So I said, listen, go back and I want you to personally get the HOA back on the phone, okay? And ask if the title company, if they're willing to do this. So go back to the HOA and instead of asking, can you close this in 30 days? Say, how can we close this next week? What will it take to close this next week, and just change the question. And so we did that, right? And all of a sudden the HOA said, oh, all you have to do is pay a $35 expedite fee, right? So we were at this resistance where all of a sudden we thought that we were going to have to wait 30 days or more. But because we pushed past that, right? We said, we will not accept that. We took that next step. We changed the question, not how long will this take, right? Because if you ask how long something will take, you will get the results that everybody else gets. You're listening to the No Limits Real Estate Investing podcast, all right? And if you want to be extremely successful, you've got to be a renegade, right? You have to be able to ruffle some feathers, ask different questions, get through resistance, and really bust through barriers. So now we were able to close this in a couple of days. We pay the expedite fee. And listen, we got our $15K or whatever we made on the property. And our acquisition specialist got paid. Our team got paid. And we're on to the next one. I always say everything affects everything. And so these little tiny things, right, they all bleed into one another, right? Let's pretend like you're first starting out and you're kind of on the edge and you're waiting for this deal to close. And it's going to be 30 days, but you're not quite cash heavy enough, right? And you're kind of scared, and waiting for this check. And instead of having that in 30 days, you've got it in 3. Your confidence is going to go through the roof, right? You're going to invest that into marketing. You're going to have leads coming in, and all of a sudden you can do it all over again. But if you've got to wait that 30 days, you're going to be a little hesitant to invest that money back into the business, right? So you see how everything affects everything. There's got to be a sense of urgency. And when you smell that resistance, you got to have a nose for resistance. Where you're getting stuck, you got to push past that. Now, this resistance could be, you don't want to make calls today, right? The title company's not moving fast enough. The seller says no to your price. You've got 10 buyers who say no, they're not willing to pay what you're asking, right? You must be willing to keep going. We've had properties where we haven't been able to sell the first 15 people that we spoke to. Okay. And all of a sudden the 16th, for whatever reason, they knew the area better, or they could cut their construction costs, or they were going to live in it and do the work themselves. But for whatever reason, they were able to do the deal and pay more. And this is the difference between the winners, okay, and those watching the winners. This is really, really, really important. Now, this is why it's your best friend, because most people will not go past the resistance. Right? You actually have no competition out there. Most people will not go past the fear, the anxiety, the no, the uncomfortable conversation, the sacrifice of time, right? They won't do that. The feeling of when they want to get on the phone and make some calls instead of watching Netflix, right? They won't get past that. And so most people will not go past that. I always say, sure, there's competition in the marketplace, meaning there's other people doing what you are doing, right? But at the end of the day, there are 15 things that I know that I could do better to work on myself that my competition is not doing, right? That's going to just put me miles ahead of everybody else. So that's why I'm not scared of competition, because I know that they are all scared of the resistance. They let it be their worst enemy. For me, I want it to be my best friend, and I want it to be your best friend if you're listening to this podcast. So here's a quick hack. And I alluded to this earlier. Whenever you're dealing with any kind of resistance, don't ask if, ask how. Okay, don't ask if, ask how. So for us, I think I mentioned this on a previous episode of the podcast, but we limit screen time for our kids, right? They get, I think it's 20 minutes a day, every single day, and they can earn bonuses for doing housework or doing something creative or reading or doing something really nice for one of their siblings. And so I'm out at work, and all of a sudden I get an email from my daughter, and she says, how much extra screen time can I get for gardening today? And I was so proud because a lot of times they'll ask me if I can have extra screen time for X, Y, Z. Right. And so I either say yes or no, but she changed that to how much screen time. And so I said 15 minutes extra screen time plus an extra minute for asking how much instead of if. Very, very, very important. Another way that you could say that is if you get a no, ask another person, right? Do not go from the person who says no. Find a way to go around and ask another person. So if I'm at a dealing with a vendor and I don't like the answer, most people are going to stop at no. And so ask for a manager or ask for another person in charge or ask for someone else who works there or another teammate or another idea. Just expand, okay, the amount of opinions in the room, right? The other thing is that let some time pass. If you're not getting what you need or want or a deal, let a little time pass, let things cool down if there's some tension in the situation or there's disappointment, and then come back around and start to ask those power questions. Very important. Now, let me talk about how these opportunities stack up. Imagine you're out there and you're encountering all this resistance and you just keep saying no and you move on from these opportunities. Now imagine the new you, right? Take off that old suit, that old costume, and let's burn it. And now you start to move past the resistance. And you've got 10 opportunities. And 7 of them, still, no matter what you do, you can't change. And this is a reality. I'm not going to tell you that you're going to get past every single resistance that you face. But because this is a numbers game, you are going to get past some of them. And so these opportunities, month after month after month after month, will start to stack up, right? So now you've got 36 opportunities after a month that you would not have had before. Now, I don't know about you, but you should be making at least 20 grand on your deals. If you're not, you need to buy the no limit selling system. And I will always recommend that you do that, but you should be making these. And imagine 20 grand times 36. That's a lot of money. Okay. Very, very, very important. Stack the opportunities, get past the resistance, let these things compound, and it's going to take over. It's going to be an unstoppable tsunami of opportunity and income in your life. So if you enjoyed today's episode and you have not shared it, number one, I'm going to challenge you to find resistance today somewhere in your business. Find it, ask a different question, blast through it, ask somebody else another way to do it, right? Coach your team on it, and I promise you, you're going to start to see results. Share this with somebody on your team or a friend. Please copy and paste the link to the show and share it with 3 or more people. Review the show. And if you have not been to our site, nolimitsrealestateinvesting.com, you can download the massive action plan, the map. It's right there. You should be able to see it, and it'll get you going to the next level. Talk to you soon.